Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for making time to come for this second episode of the Cameroon Academy of Young Scientists Podinar series, where we are hosting only women in science, women who inspire other women to achieve greatness. I'm Dr. Lohia Funu. I'm your host today, and I'm hosting this session with Dr. Christelle Zese, and we are really pleased to receive Professor Alvine Kamaha, a trailblazing Cameroonian physicist who turned her challenge into stepping stone. She is an assistant professor of physics and Terazaki Underwood Chair in Physical Science at the prestigious University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA, if you know it. And she is leading groundbreaking work on dark matter. She will explain us the dark matter phase, I think, during this webinar. I don't know anything about that. And she's inspiring women globally. And we are to have you around, Dr. Kamaha. And thank you again for accepting our invitation.
The pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. And I thank all those who were able to connect live today to listen to this podcast. And I thank those who will be connecting later on. You know, it's always my pleasure to talk about my story, to talk about my research. And if I can help in the process to inspire any young Cameroonian, either lady or male, to engage into fundamental science, it would be a win for me. So it's my pleasure.
Thank you. So we have a first part where we are taking questions from the host only, and the second part, about 30 or 35 minutes later, we are taking questions from the floor. And for the first part, I hand over to Christelle, the co-host, to start with the first question we have prepared for you. Thank you. Christelle, you have the floor.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are joining us. As you have said, the pleasure is ours to host this webinar tonight. I'm very sorry that I will not be able to open my camera, as this application doesn't allow me to open it on this phone. And this said, I'll go straight to the point, to the business of the day. And we are so pleased to have Professor Kamaha in our midst, and we look forward to learning a lot from her story and to inspire other females from Cameroon, as he said. So this said, in our country, I mean, in Africa, and particularly in our country, there are so many challenges that we face, and one of these is like the challenges that women have to pursuing like studies, especially in the STEM field, and particularly in physics. So women are very scared to engage in physical sciences. And I mean, looking at your story, I mean, we are really amazed to see how a female scientist like you was able to make this. And we are really interested to know, like, what inspired you, like what first inspired you to pursue physics? Why other women are like, this is a domain which is maybe mostly reserved to men. And maybe later to specialize in astroparticle and dark matter research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christelle, for the question. And yeah, I first wish you prompt recovery. We heard from Lucia that you were a bit unwell. So my story will be perhaps the same as most stories you have heard, right? Where when you are faced with challenge, sometimes you can decide to see the challenge as an overwhelming difficulty that you will never be able to surmount, and then you give up, or you decide that you're going to take the challenge for what it is, just a challenge, and you try to find ways to overcome that challenge. So for me, it was the latter. When I was growing up in Cameroon, we all know the system because we are all Cameroonian in this platform, at least the people who are directly logging now. I did my high school in the system, and I think the equivalent of grade 9, which is troisième in Cameroon, the French system. After you get your national degree at that time, you have to choose between going into grade 10 technical or going to grade 10 literature, right? I think I was blessed with being very smart and understanding things easily, and I was also very studious. I like to say that throughout all my life, I didn't have any hobby. Even right now, I don't have hobby. I love working, I love studying. So then perhaps because of that and my natural inclination to understand things promptly, I was able to do really well in all my subjects. I did really well in literature. I did really well in technical studies like physics, mathematics, and things like that. But then when it came the time for me to choose between going to second C or second A, so like technical grade 10 or literature focus grade 10, I was told at that time that no, it's better for you to go to literature grade 10. Just because you're a woman, we think that you should go this way. And I didn't like that because if it was based on my grade, if it was based on the fact that, oh, well, you didn't do so well in scientific discipline, then you should go to a literature-based grade 10, I would have been fine with that. But the only explanation was because of my gender, it was better for me to go to grade 10. And I'm not saying that story to blame the academic advisor or something like that, but I'm saying that person was seeking out my best interest, and the person was thinking, long term, you will engage in the field which is mostly male dominated in Cameroon, and you may have difficulty, getting a social life and things like that. So I'm trying to find a comfortable path for you. And again, here I'm not saying that those who do literature have chosen the comfortable path, but I'm saying that's, I think, what the academic advisor was thinking. And I didn't like it. So I discussed with my parent, and my father was a very, very, very encouraging dad. He told me, you do whatever you want to do. If you decide that you want to do literature, you do it. If you decide that you want to do a scientific discipline, you do it. So then we went back to school that day. It was very close to our house, so we could go to school quickly. We went to school and then we said, no, my father said, no, she's going to go to grade 10, the scientific one. So I did engage in grade 10 scientific one. And later on, it became more obvious to me why the academic advisor was saying that. Again, it was not because she was mean for the sake of being mean, but she was trying to prevent me from that kind of isolation women in scientific discipline may feel, not only in Cameroon, but in many, many other countries. So as time went on, I started to realize that, either I give up and I prove that woman right, and I give another data to older female students to not pursue scientific discipline, either I try to overcome that challenge, not only for myself, but for others who will come after me. So I will say that from my grade 10 until my first master's degree in Cameroon, I did not do physics for the love of it. I did not do science for the love of it. I was just doing science to not be a data to prove people that physics can be done by all people from all gender, right? So it was after I got my first master's degree in Cameroon, and then I got a scholarship to go to Trieste. There is an international center there. It's called Abdul Salem International Center for Theoretical Physics. It was built by Nobel Prize. I think he got the 1962 Nobel Prize, Abdul Salem, and then he got his share of the money for the Nobel Prize, and then he went to talk to the Italian government to open that center in Italy. So that center basically is what I like to say, a stepping stone for any brilliant student from underrepresented, from developing countries like African countries, some Asian countries, and so forth, to come to Italy, get like a chance at doing a very accelerated master's degree, but which will give them the opportunity to be exposed to modern science, such that when they will get that new certificate, new master's degree, they can apply to Western universities. So when I went to Italy, I did my second master's degree with Alexei Yusiminov from the Newton oscillation in matter. And it was when I fell in love with actually physics. So it was my first time being like, I really love this field. I really love, the intricacy of this field. We were studying why neutrinos have mass. Meanwhile, in Cameroon, when I was doing my high school, we knew that neutrinos were massless. So the fact that, the knowledge of today becomes an error for tomorrow. And the fact that, even tiny masses like the neutrino mass, people are designing extraordinary experiment to try to probe that mass and measure with accuracy, I was like, oh, I think I want to do something like that. So then after my master's degree in Italy, I went for a third master's degree in Canada because I wanted to do experimental physics. And prior to that time, I haven't had exposure with experimental physics. So I had to start a third master's degree to kind of learn the basis of experimental physics before doing my PhD. So I said, okay, I want to do experimental physics. I want to do experimental physics in the modern field. So I like to call it exotic physics, either neutrino or dark matter. And I asked my advisor at the time, what is the best university that does that? He told me there is a university in Canada attached to the Snow Lab underground facility. It's called Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. If you get there, they have the best group. And lo and behold, I got there. I did my PhD, not in neutrino, but in dark matter. And he was right, because that school got the 2016 Nobel Prize in Physics for the discovery of neutrino oscillation in matter. Right. So that's how basically I started doing physics, just to prove a point that women can do physics, even though we have to be honest, there are so many challenges. Not only the challenge of the difficulty of the field, but mostly the challenge of the social pressure and isolation that you can feel. Then while doing that, I fell in love with physics, mostly exotic physics, or what we call beyond the standard model physics, because my advisor at the time was a very passionate one, and it helped me to really have the love for physics. And up to now, I do physics now for the love of physics. I'm not trying to prove a point anymore. If my discussion or sharing my story can get anybody to be interested in physics, I would be happy about that. But I'm not doing physics for the love of it. And the more I do physics, the more I just get so excited and then so thrilled about the breadth of knowledge you can have. And most of all, like the fact that from your lab, you can design an experiment that will reveal so much understanding of the universe as a whole, right? You don't have to be like a NASA astronaut who will go into different space out there to be able to probe the universe, but you can probe the universe even from an underground lab. So I think that's my story. And I will stop there to welcome any other question you may have.
Thank you so much, Alvine. It was so inspiring. I had goosebumps when you were speaking, because I couldn't think of doing physics myself when I was in high school. And someone told you to specifically not doing that, but still you went into that specifically to probe the person that it was not a gender issue, that if you had at least 1 mark in physics, that made sense, but not because of your gender. So you wanted to prove a point to the person, and so you lean into the difficulty rather, instead of running away. That's great. And I wanted, when you are talking about dark matter, I saw the passion you were having, sharing your story about it. I was just thinking of you teaching people in high school so that they had this same passion. Because if you start at university, it's too late, because we are not open enough anymore there. You should go to high school, even primary school, to have this same passion and inspire other people, because it's really something that we don't like at all. I told my own story, my own day. I don't like physics. And you were talking about dark matter. The first time I heard this thing, it was in the Big Bang Theory. So I couldn't even relate to what they were talking about. I was just looking at it. But now that I see you really working on that in the real world, can you tell us a bit about that, but in simpler terms, so that we can understand at least what you are doing in your research group? I love the name of this research group, Excalibur. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh, well, it was a name that we have found, and then maybe we will change it because the name is not most important than the research we do, right? Yeah. But for now, it's called Excalibur. It was one of my former students who found the name. So yeah. Okay. So what is dark matter? To be able to answer your question in one sentence, I would say that dark matter is the name given to the invisible mass of the universe. So we have discovered back in 1930s and even shortly before that, that this visible mass of the universe, or the visible matter of the universe, is not all the matter there is, right? It's basically like the visible mass of the universe, which we can see because of some interaction with photons, either absorption of the photon, either emission of the photon. So electromagnetic interaction will produce some optical effect, and we'll be able to see them, right? And then we can look with telescopes and then be able to see stars in galaxies and so forth. Or even I being able to see you, or you being able to see myself, is because of that electromagnetic interaction, right? Before, we thought that it was all the matter there is in the universe. So if you have asked a physicist or a scientist back in maybe 1800 to describe the universe, the scientists may have said the universe is made of visible matter and energy, right? But then after some of them became so curious, and I like to think about scientific curiosity being the driver of all the discovery we have made so far and we continue to make. So some of them were curious about probing the dynamic of stars and the dynamic of galaxies within which the stars are located. And they discovered something very interesting. They discovered that if we only account for the visible matter as the only matter in the universe, then the stars, the speed at which they are flying inside of the galaxy, they will be able to fly out, so detach from the galaxy, right? And then we know that if such a thing was to happen, it will be, right, a very bad thing for planet Earth and, anywhere else where there is life. But then they discovered that despite this rapid speed of those stars, somewhere, somehow, there was something that was keeping them gravitationally bound into the galaxy, such that they don't fly out. But that something was not visible at all, because they used different optical means to be able to see that thing that was keeping them gravitationally bound, and they were not able to see it. So then they said there should be a dark, unseen matter at the edge of the galaxy that acts as a gravitational pull those stars such that they don't fly out. And because they gave the name unseen matter or dark matter, people started to call it dark matter, right? So then at the end of the day, so many other evidences about dark matter were found. And the way sometimes the analogy to use dark matter, to explain dark matter, depending on the audience, would be basically like the wind. You don't see the wind, but you know that the wind is there, because if you drop a paper, it will swing a little bit before it falls, but it's swinging a little bit because of the push of the wind. The same way, we know now that the way the universe came to be, there was this component of the gravitational force of that dark matter that acted as a glue to permit that large-scale structures are formed, or to permit that those stars that are rapidly rotating inside of the galaxy do not escape the galaxy, right? But now the fundamental question is, what exactly is dark matter? And to that question, nobody has an answer. And that's why we have been designing experiments since the 1930s to be able to fundamentally detect dark matter, and to be able to probe its structure, and to say something like we say for normal matter is made of atoms, right? Which are basically nucleus and electron orbiting the nucleus. We want to be able to detect dark matter to be able to say something like that, but we don't have an answer yet. And we have been looking for more than 60 years and counting, and we haven't been able to find dark matter yet. My experiment, for instance, I'm working on right now, we have made some assumptions that dark matter should be particulate of nature, right? The same way as visible matter is mostly made of particle. We assume that dark matter will also be made of particles, and those particles will be new particles that will be beyond all the normal matter particles we know. So we have designed then an experiment that is trying to detect those new particles. If we find those new particles, we can trace back to the fact that we have found dark matter, probe this particle, and be able to fundamentally answer the question, what is dark matter? But for now, dark matter is the invisible matter of the universe that has some gravitational effect that has caused the evolution of the universe the way we know it, from small scale structure to large scale structure. And it's also the gravitational effect that keep the galaxies, the stars, bounded inside of the galaxy.
Wow, wow, amazing. I can say that I understood what you explained now.
Wonderful.
I can tell you that I understood. That's amazing. So interesting. When you say it like this, it makes sense. It makes totally sense. But now, what are the challenges that you have faced? Because you yourself, you say that the person who told you to do this in literature was predicting your future in good, not in the bad. So what are the challenges that you have really face directly during your career, from Cameroon to you have 3 masters just to go to this level where you are now? That's wow.
I will try to remember some of those challenges to share them, okay? But I'm sure I will forget some of them, because once you overcome a challenge, you are more excited about the new opportunity that opens up, right? So you tend to forget the challenge. But the first thing, I want to give credit to who credit is due. If I didn't have supportive parents who will always be there to make sure that I do what I want to do, I wouldn't have been here today. All right. I said how in high school, my father went back to school with me, and then he said to that academic counselor, that teacher, I don't remember exactly, my daughter is going to do this, because you don't have a strong basis for which she should not do that. Right. If my father did not step in, I wouldn't have done that. Right. And I would say that in terms of challenge, one of the challenges I have faced is the sense of not belonging, And sometimes when we think about not belonging, we directly think about, maybe a racial issues, like, were you victim of racism? No, because even in Cameroon, right, we used to, now when I think about that, I chuckle, because my classmate at the university, they were mostly male. And then I think I even have a picture of me in high school with mostly male also. They used to tell us, go and get married. What are you doing here? Go and get married. And maybe somebody who is not Cameroonian or who doesn't have the African culture, we listen to this and then say, but what is wrong with that? But if you know the Cameroonian culture, and you know that the value of a woman depends on the ring she has, you will know that it's not a joke. It's very hurtful, right? When you are trying to study with your classmate, and then they were like, what are you doing here? Go and get married. Just go and get married. Every single time. The first time might be funny, but the more they insist, you start to realize it's not funny at all, right? Or maybe you have been told you are too manly. You are too manly to be able to get married and things like that. So at the end of the day, you have to think about, I am bigger than just being a wife. I am bigger than fitting in this societal mode. And I think that's the reason why that lady told me, don't do the scientific series, do the literature series, because she was already looking ahead. In this Cameroonian culture, it will be very difficult for you to fit into society. And later on, when I travel, it was mostly about, you are coming from Africa. Are you really smart? Prove to us that you are smart, right? And I have said to my classmates countless times that in Cameroon, we may not have labs. We may not, because we don't have the financial facility to be able to build, like $10 million a lab to be able to, study those type of experiment you do here. But one thing is very sure with the Cameroonian system, and we should give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, is the fact that we have a strong theory background. And if I was speaking in French, I would say something that everybody will understand, but I will not do that. So the fact that at the University of Douala, where I studied, you are doing physics, okay? Your major is physics, but you're learning everything at the same time. And the professors there, when they give you an exam or a midterm, they're not giving an exam for you to pass. No, they are designing the exam for you to fail. So you have to prove to them that you belong. So if you see someone in Cameroon with like 12 out of 20, that would be an equivalent of A+ here. Okay, because that person to get the 12 out of 20 has had to write strong answers for an exam that the professor has designed that the majority of the class will fail. Pass the exam, even the way we lecture in Cameroon, we have a very strong theoretical background. And that's what I told my classmate. I remember when I was in Canada, I was telling them, in Cameroon, we have this very strong theoretical background. And I have done the first master's degree. It was true that it was not modern physics in Cameroon. Second master's degree in Italy. So if you want to really quiz me on my understanding of theory, that's not really, it will be a playground for me. And they thought that I was joking. But my grade have showed them consistently that I really know what I'm talking about in terms of theory. In terms of experimental, I have to be honest, I was 0. And that's why I had to do a third master degree to be able to learn the basis of experimental physics. So in Cameroon, the sense of not belonging, in Canada, the sense of not belonging for different reasons now. And later on, also the language barrier, right? Because I studied at the University of Douala in French. I went to Italy, I studied in English, although it was in Italy, it was, that school is an international school. And the way I overcame it, and I have to say that sometime in life, you have to be willing to sacrifice something to gain something, right? I didn't have a social life in Italy. If you take me to the city where I lived in Italy, you can lose me easily because I spent 1 year there, but my only trajectory was from home to the center. And we were doing that 7 days a week, even on Sunday. We were taking the first bus to go to the center, the last bus 11:55 p.m. to go home. Why? Because not only myself, but many of my classmates, we realized that we had some shortfall. The language, we were not natural English speakers. So we had to listen to, like, at that time, it was even pre-COVID era, but the lectures were recorded. So we had to listen to the lectures like 10 times to be able to get one thing, right? And then that was time sacrifice, but it's commitment. So you sit, you listen, you write, the professor can say virtual particle, you don't get it. You play it again, you play it again, you play it again until you get it, and then you move on. You see, so that time sacrifice we were willing to put in, and that has helped us to overcome the barrier of the language barrier. I will say that in terms of language barrier, I learned most of the scientific terms before I learned the social English. So in English, it was kind of like, if you ask me about scientific words, I can tell you the translation. But if you tell me, for instance, anything, it was ridiculous. Anything about social life, like bottle, I won't be able to say, because I was like, no, I don't want to care about that right now. I just want to care about my school. I want to make sure that I use this opportunity. And but at the end of the day, when I got my PhD, I felt like all those challenges were worth it. I don't think that any of my classmates, either in Cameroon, either in Canada, were actually ill-intended, right? It was just that they were reacting against somebody who tries to go cross-grain with the society, right? In Cameroon, those classmates, male, were used to have also male classmates. So when we female, we come into the discipline, it's kind of like, what are you doing here? Why do you try to break the societal norm? In Canada, they were used to having Caucasian classmate, right? So when this person of a different colors come in, that's the same thing. It was not really ill intention. It was just like seeing somebody different and then trying to probe their difference. Maybe not the right way, but that's what they were doing.
Wow, that's so inspiring. Christelle is back on the floor. I do But what you share your challenges, or you take you like you sacrifice something. You say that you need to sacrifice something to get something. You cannot say that you have everything without sacrificing. But now you know the new generation like having everything without paying the price, like you pay the price to be where you are. What are you telling now to this young listening to us now or in the future? What can you tell them so that they can maybe achieve their goal, but in the right way?
I will say that I will use this French quote: "À vaincre sans péril, on triomphe sans gloire." Anything that you receive without struggling to some extent to have it, you will not be able to appreciate to the full extent the value of that thing, right? And if you don't appreciate to the full extent the value of something, what will happen is that either you will misuse it, either you will lose it. And you also have to realize that there is a saying that says that, you know, to sort out a matter is a king domain kind of thing. To say that sometimes challenges are not really meant for us to be like, oh, that's another difficulty I have to face. But it's just for you to say, oh, I have something at my level that I can, do, right, to keep myself sharp or to keep myself motivated. I don't really want to talk into, what should be the focus of people, because I think that at the end of the day, people design their life based on their focus, right? So if someone decides that I want to do physics, or I want to be in academia, I want to be a scientist, the person should know that a scientific word is a very disciplined one. It's a disciplined word that comes with many challenges and that comes with many updates. So you have to be able to work hard to keep up with all those updates. If somebody decide that I want to be a top model, even in that top model area, I'm sure that they have some regulation and policy that you should keep up to. So at the end of the day, I don't even think that something is easy. Yeah, but I would also say maybe is how maybe it's people upbringing, because if you are brought up seeing your parent getting things the right way, most likely you will try to get things the right way. But I'm not sure. Maybe I will say that I share my story, and I hope that my story will inspire other people. But I cannot really talk into what inspire people because I don't really know. Right? It's a very tough question. Yeah, it's a very tough question. Yeah, it's a very tough question. Yeah, because I know also that in Cameroon right now there is this new phenomenon of influencers in French, and I don't really want to speak into that because at the end of the day, yeah, it's really what you want to become, right? And if you get to where you aim to be, will you able to be, I am happy of the means I have used to get there? Right. If you are alone, not with people, because sometimes with people we tend to, not say the right thing because we don't want to be perceived some way. So, but on your own, can you look at your mirror and then say, I am happy about the means I have used to get to where I am? And I want also to tell young people that most things in life take time. Most things in life take time. Most things in life will demand sacrifice. So try as much as possible to not look at difficulties like, can I find a short way out of this? But wrestle with it. Wrestle with it such that at the end of the day, you will get a better outcome from that. I teach an undergraduate class, and I tell my students that I give you homework, and the homework I give you, you have 1 week. You have infinite trials to get it right. And the intent for me is that you will wrestle with the homework. You will wrestle with the concept that you are learning. Because by wrestling with it, you will be learning something and you may not even have the right answer. But when you will come to office hour, I will show you the right answer. That right answer will stick. Why? Because you have taken time to wrestle with it. But if you don't wrestle with it, it will not stick. And your exam, midterms or final exam will show. Right? So that's what I can say to that very tough question.
Thank you for giving your honest answer. Now, can you speak to the young lady who's maybe 16-year-olds like you were, or now thinking, is she going to do literature? Is she going to do science? Is she going to do physics, or not at all physics? I should run away from physics. Can you talk to this young lady in 16 or 20-year-olds?
To those younger people, I will say that you may not know exactly right now what you want to do. Okay. But the beauty of the world is that you may start in literature and then end up in science, or you can start in science and then end up in literature. That's the beauty of the world we are right now. Because as you grow older, you start to form your own personality, you start to form what you want to be, then you can find people to help you to get to where you want to be. So some 16-year-old know for sure what they want to do, right? Some don't know. So if you're in the category that you don't know, don't feel bad at all, right? But with your present understanding of things, choose something you like to do and choose something that you have the passion to do it. And when you are doing it, do it really, really well. Really, really well. It can be literature, it can be science, but do it really, really well. Because when you will do it really well, the skills you will learn along the way will for sure serve you tomorrow. And for the young girl who knows what she wants to do, but because of the society pressure, she feels like she should change it, I will say that she should not change it. Why? Because I did not change mine because of the society pressure. Right? And then I'm happy about the decision that I've made. So to that young girl, I will say, don't change what you want to do because of the society pressure. Try to do it, but try to find also around you a support system, because it's very important at times when the society out there is telling you, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. To go in your support system. It can be a father, it can be a mother, it can be a sister, it can be a brother, it can be a friend, and cry, because crying will relieve all the stress and then give you strength to go back out again tomorrow and fight it, and that's why we have this, this new system of role model, right? Such that support system doesn't have to be someone in Cameroon even. If you have to contact, for instance, Dr. Luria, you can do that. If you have to contact Christelle, you can do that. If you have to contact me, you can do that. And many people, they don't have to be Cameroonian. They don't even have to be scientists, right? But they will understand your journey in the sense that I want to do this, but society is forcing me to do that. And those are the people that you want to have at least one person in your corner. Then you pursue what you want to do. And if the challenge is becoming too much, you go back to them, you cry. They give you strength, pep talks, you go back, you continue fighting. And I want to end by saying that make sure whatever you choose to do, that the vision you have for your life, that end goal, is bigger than the noise of the society around you. Because if, for instance, a young girl is saying, I want to become a doctor, and people are like, no, it will be 9 years, it will be too late to get married in Cameroonian system and things like that. That dream of becoming a doctor should be bigger than that noise. Because if that dream is not bigger than the noise will swamp the dream and then she'll be stopped. And make sure that your dream is bigger than the noise. And also make sure that you don't stop at a difficulty, thinking perhaps that is a sign. Like when you face a difficulty, you're like, yeah, it's a sign that I should change field. No, because we all face difficulties, and it's just the way we perceive them. If you perceive them as challenges, it's fun to overcome them. If you perceive them as showstopper, then they become a showstopper, right? And talk to people. Talk to people. That's why, I really want to say, I really recommend programs like yours, Dr. Luria, because, it gives that platform to young people to connect to other people, right? Such that you can create that connection, that mentor-mentee relationship that will take you places. But I did not have that when I was a student, but I was able to make it because my father was my strong support system.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much. People, those who are in the audience today, we are going to have very soon opening the floor to you. So prepare your question. But before that, let me summarize what Dr. and Professor Alvine Kamaha just said. For any young ladies following us now or in the future, or even male, you can also take this into account. Whatever you want to do, make sure that your vision is louder and very clear than the noise, because the noise is always there. Have role models, have a strong support system, have great mentors, and love what you do. Whatever you do, you should love it. You should do it also very well. You should do it very well. And before opening the floor, I want to ask last final question to you, Sir Kamaha. How are you balancing family and work? Because there are also people who are here, they are physicists like you. I don't know how long your experiment run in the lab. Like me, I'm a microbiologist. My experiment may last for 24 hours. So I don't know how you are balancing your experiment, your life and family and research, everything together. Thank you.
I'm still learning. I'm still learning. But I would say it's also part of the challenge, right? At every level of your life, there's always challenge that you have to overcome. So one of my challenges right now is to learn properly how to balance my family life and then my professional life, right? I am married to a Cameroonian, and we are typical Cameroonian, and I hope that everybody understands what it means. So then there are some stuff that I cannot allow myself to do. Right, I have to cook almost every day for my husband. So then I have to make sure that we eat at a certain time. So I have to find workaround. So what I do basically, I will work until a certain time of the day. I will go home, and after dinner, I will keep on working. Okay, until maybe like midnight, 1 a.m., and then I will go to bed, and I've come to school early, and then so forth. So you always have to find your right way to juggle with the balls that you have been given. But at the end of the day, though, it's fun to find ways to overcome challenges. It's really fun. So I will not say to any woman scientist that, oh, don't get married to an African person because of ABC reason. I will just say, find a way to overcome that challenge. It's another challenge to overcome. And sometimes even communication helps, right? Communication helps to, once the other person understand that, okay, at this particular time, sometimes I go to conference and then my husband totally understands. Sometimes I have to run an experiment in my lab that will take longer than the dinner time, and then my husband understands that night it will be pizza or something like that, right? So it's fine. I'm still learning, but yeah, I don't think it's a showstopper. We can all find an efficient way to combine our professional life and our social life. Yeah.
Like you said in the beginning, you are bigger than being a wife only. So yeah, everything together. Yeah, that's nice. So I'm opening now the floor to those who have burning question of Kamaha. Let's say really burning question that you want her to say something. Yes, Fidel. That's your biggest
one. Thank you for the opportunity. I put on my camera. Alvine is a younger sister, actually, and a friend. I am really excited to see what she's done so far. I met her when she was doing the Master's 1 in Douala. And I was a Master's 2 student in Sepamok, and with a background in chemistry, organic chemistry, actually. So I was going to take under my Master's 2 courses while following Master's 1 course at the same time. And she was in her early 20s, and I was shocked by the fact that a woman could handle questions I could not handle. So while she was challenged by by the gender issue, I was also challenged the other side. No, I'm from background in chemistry. I was like, Professor Quantum Jock, quantum mechanics, and she just figures out everything. I was like, hold on, who is this little girl who understands everything? So that's how I got to know her. And so I knew her at that time. And then when she arrived in Italy, she met me there because I had a UN fellowship. I saw her transition from being the typical Francophone Cameroonian to becoming a Western scientist. I remember her first words in English was not just easy at all. And I also learned from her some fefe, you know what I'm saying? so it's to say we are good friends, and we've kept the contact all this while. She saw me getting married. I saw her getting married and all that. So it's a younger sister, and I'm really proud. I would say I will start by complimenting to say I'm really proud by your strides. When I look at your life, or I can write a book about it anyway, I see a couple of things. I see vision, I see resilience, I see authenticity. She's just authentic. Alvine is someone you can trust to tell you the truth. I mean, beside the science, if she can tell you the truth just the way it is, and with a lot of humility, she'll tell you the truth. I say that as a big brother from an African perspective. And she's authentic. She's a determined person. When she wants to do something, nothing stops her. That's one I can tell you. Nothing stops her. She's focused, she's hardworking, and she's persistent. So nothing stops her. And for those who know a bit of her story, when she was landing in Italy, when we were receiving her in the train station, her father was just being buried. And you would not understand how a young woman, the father had just been buried, and then she's coming to study for her master's in an environment which is really hostile. On the city they speak Italian, and the classroom they speak English. And she's able to navigate all that. And when she tells you about the first master's, the second master's, the third master's, all these was like forming her, putting in her the person that she, because when you become a scientist, a top scientist, you navigate all this. Like I do drug discovery, there's physics involved, there's chemistry involved, but I needed all that for my first master's, second master's. So sometimes these things come as challenges, but you take them as stepping stones. So what I'll pick out from her story, which can be an advice to any young person venturing anything, be you. Don't be someone else. Don't be trying to do literature because people want you to do literature. If your dream is physics, go for the physics. Just be authentic. And you can only feel yourself as authentic as you want to be when you are you. You cannot be a better photocopy of someone else instead of being an original of yourself. And so this is the thing I would say. And I encourage you to move higher. I encourage you to move for tenure. I encourage you to be all that which you want to be. You can count on me for your prayers, for my prayers. You can trust in me for advice as usual. I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fade. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to have people who know you for a long time. So I want to say two things with respect to what he said. In life, I have learned that it's easier if you pick your battles. Okay. So again, it's about making sure that your vision is bigger than the noise or louder than the noise around you, because it helps you to say, this is my battle. My battle is to get to where I want to be. And whatever noise, whatever happenings of life happens, it helps you to stay focused on your vision. And the second thing is to not hesitate to make sacrifices to get where you want to be. Like I was talking about my 3 master degrees, but the 3rd master degree was because I was changing from theoretical physics to experimental physics. And there it was because of a vision that I had. I was thinking at that time that if I go back to Cameroon, right, because at the University of Douala at the time, when I got my first master degree, I got it in atomic physics. And there was no modern physics to say, like there was mechanics and then atomic physics, but not deep beyond the standard model physics, right? So I went to Italy, I started beyond the standard model physics on my 2nd master degree. And then I said to myself, if I go back to Cameroon right now, I will be able to contribute a little bit to improving the scope of the physics we do in Cameroon, but not much. But if I go and get a doctorate degree in experimental physics, I will be then able to contribute a lot, because not only I'm bringing modern physics beyond the standard model, but I'm also bringing experimental physics. So I was willing then to pay that sacrifice, of a third master, of starting it. I didn't finish it, I converted into a PhD, of starting a third master degree just to learn the basic of experimental, to go and get a PhD in experimental physics. That will work toward my long-term vision of contributing to science in Cameroon. So it's again, have a vision and don't be scared about paying the price to make sure that your vision comes to life one day.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic, Professor Kamaha. Just for the sake of people waiting for having their hand raised, I want to know, where do you see your research going in the next 5 years, or what are your next 5 years goals?
So right now I'm working on an experiment called Lux Zeppelin. That's my main research. That experiment is the world-leading direct detection dark matter experiment. So the detector itself is located deep underground, and we have been taking data about finding evidence directly of some particles that might be dark matter candidate. I intend then for the next 5 years to first continue working on that experiment, because that experiment has the world-leading result in terms of dark matter detection. So if an experiment was the most likely to find dark matter in that mass range we are probing, it would be that experiment, right? So I'm working on that experiment, and at the same time, I'm working on a future experiment that might take shape in 2030s, 2040s. So we are still in the, not really design, we are still in the groundbreaking phase of that experiment, right? Trying to design it, trying to do R&D for the actual detector size and things like that. So that is what I'll be working on for the next 5 years, my main experiment, and then the other future dark matter experiment. But at the same time, as you may know, I got an early career award from the Department of Energy in the United States to do some R&D in my lab in terms of calibrating, meaning understanding how normal particles interact with a dark matter detector, such that we will eliminate potential false positive and not claim a false discovery of dark matter. So that will take me 5 years as well. So the next 5 years is very busy. I'll be working on my DOE Early Career Award. I will be working on my current experiment, Lux Zeppelin. I'll be working on setting up the other future detector XLZD. And of course, I will continue teaching and then working with my students to get them to graduate.
I think this dark matter, when you found it, you get the Nobel Prize, right? So?
Yeah, the experiment will get the Nobel Prize. I think so. But I will not be the one, because I'm not a spokesperson, but the experiment will get the Nobel Prize. And for me, I think my greatest joy will be the fact that I have worked on an experiment that got the Nobel Prize.
Nice.
And that they have helped to advance, science.
Great. And we'll be happy because we'll be having a Cameroon and having contribute to Nobel Prize. So, the continent. So we have another hand from Jimmy Talambe.
Okay, thank you very much for the floor. I would like to congratulate Alvine for the nice talk and also for many pieces of advice. My question will be a basic question anyway. So I really appreciate the fact that you combine very well your family duties and your work and your career, and then you advise some youngest women in research to do so. But this is my crazy question. You insist that after the meeting you will go back and cook for your husband. Why are you going to cook? Koki or couscous nole?
That's a very good question. I try to cook traditional African meal on the weekend, right? Because I have more time. But on the weekday, I will be cooking lighter meal. So no koki on dole on weekdays, maybe weekends. Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy, for making me laugh with that question.
Thank you, Jimmy. Was it Aude Karel Le Cabot? She has a hand raised also.
Okay, thank you, Loya, for allowing me to speak tonight. I don't have any question. I just wanted to appreciate the story sharing from Dr. Alvin. I have an NGO in Cameroon where we encourage young women to pursue STEM careers. So I read Dr. Alvin's story on LinkedIn, and I reshared it through all the different platforms that we have. And hearing her talking now, it's really different. Like seeing all the pictures, the story, how she made it wonderful in physics is different from hearing. Her story is really inspiring. And as she was talking, I was seeing myself, and I wanted to cry. Sorry, I'm with the baby. Yeah, because I'm a chemical engineer. I studied in Italy. I work in oil and gas, and then I got married and I came back to Cameroon. I was thinking that what can I do? Maybe encouraging other women to pursue STEM careers and stuff like that. And yeah, I also have a really like different career path, and everywhere I got in, I was within the few women or the only Black woman, and I really felt our story, and it was really touching, inspiring, and I just wanted to say thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Aude, for your beautiful comment. And thank you also for, the NGO that you have opened in Cameroon. I believe that we all have different strength, and then because we all have different strength and skill, we can put them all together, to brighten the future of other people. So if you can please put the link of your NGO such that I can also recommend it to, other young girls in Cameroon who reach out to me, it would be fantastic.
She said, okay, thank you. She was in the chat. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful.
Do you have any other question? While thinking, I was thinking, are you going back in Cameroon soon?
Eventually, right? Eventually, what I have started doing, and then I have a website. That website is called STEM Outreach. When I opened that website, the idea was not only Cameroon focused, but it was every underrepresented minority by gender, by race, in any developing country and even in westernized countries. And I was trying to, I have been involved a lot with outreach activities for high schoolers, not only high schoolers, even like primary school students, because you said earlier on at the beginning that it's at that tender age, right, where they are being formed, that you can inspire them to do science. You can help them to break that societal barrier. So I have opened that website, and then I have been sharing pictures of my speaking engagement to various places. And I have opened an African chapter. And my African chapter was mainly for universities in Cameroon because it was difficult for me at the time to get into high schools. And what I have done in terms of university in Cameroon was to try to do seminars every 2 years when I'm able to travel to Cameroon to different universities. And I think that's how I met Jimmy, right? Jimmy Talabe, when I went to the University of Yaoundé, I think. So the whole idea for me was to make sure that what I learned, I can effectively benefit Cameroon. And at the present time, I cannot effectively benefit Cameroon, right? Because things are not yet in place. So if I was to go back now, I will be doing myself a disservice. I will be doing Cameroon a disservice. I will be basically taking all this training, all the challenge, and all my experience, and then throwing them. So what I have decided to do was to have a stagger approach where I go to Cameroon, I talk to different universities. I talk to them, for instance, about dark matter research. The fact that it's a fundamental physics, but all the skills we glean along the way can help Cameroon sit at the table for that kind of topic internationally, right? And one thing we should do, for instance, is to try to change the syllabus in different universities. I have said the same thing at the University of Yaoundé, at the University of Douala, and so the conversation is still continuing. So that would be stage one. Once that is done, I can now, I'm also working with my university here, UCLA. how we can increase the international pool of the students applying to UCLA, right? Increasing is fine, but how do we get a Cameroonian student to come directly to UCLA for a PhD or a master program? Right now, it's not possible. The first step is, again, to change the syllabus in Cameroon such that it'll be a direct translation, right? When somebody will be reading, it'll be like, okay, this student has taken an introduction to particle physics at the University of Douala. It makes sense. But if we look at the transcript right now, it will be very difficult. So that will be stage 2. Then stage 3 are some step program or bridge program. And then stage 4 is for me to find some funding, right? To be able to say, if I go back to Cameroon, and for instance, I am at the University of Douala, I'll be able to open a lab, even if a small scale lab with the funding that I have gotten. And then from there, grow my lab, right? So I would say, yes, I intend to go back to Cameroon, but it's still very, very early. And I'm working on a plan, multi-stage plan to go back eventually.
20 years plan. So you want the Nobel Prize, so continue 20 years plan. We are working also on the stage to make things happen in the country, even if I'm not in country currently. But that's a great plan. You can see that your vision is really clear and you are working like in silos, working at different stages. That's really inspiring also for those who are thinking, but are not taking action, because you think and you take small kind of action to have it working, so that at the end of the day, they merge together. That's really great also. It's really inspiring for everyone to take as advice. I think we have other. Do you raise your hand again?
Yes. I forgot something. I also wanted to thank Dr. Alvine for the way she explained the dark matter. You know, when you were speaking, it was so interesting that I was thinking, maybe I should go back to university and study, experimental physics. Why not? It's so interesting, and the way you explain it, what you're doing, it's really amazing. So keep going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I have done so many years of outreach activities geared toward inspiring younger generation and minorities to join science, right? And to do dark matter. So I have learned ways to simplify the language. And the more and more years pass by, I'm becoming more efficient at watering down things. Of course, if you were to read an actual dark matter article, it will be more complex than the story I told you. But the surface level understanding is that. And I'm glad that you were able to understand, Odd. And most of you were able to understand. Wonderful.
I was able to understand. So that means you did a great job, because I'm blocking physics. So if you do you have any further question? Because it's now 1 hour, then the webinar is just 1 hour. We are not taking time of Dr. Alvine so much, because she told you that she has to go and cook. Like every woman, we have to go home after job and cook. So
I think Odd has raised her hand, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
sorry. Now I have a question.
Okay.
How is it possible? I think that you were talking about it. Is it possible for a student in Cameroon to directly apply to UCLA and be selected? Is it realistic? Have you ever met a student coming directly from Cameroon for a master program or a PhD?
Very good question. I will say that it's possible, but I haven't seen. Okay. Will it be difficult? Yes, it will be difficult, but I still believe that, those applications are treated case by case, right? But the surest way is making sure that there is a translation in whatever the student has studied before, and what the student is interested in terms of field of study, right? Because when you apply for a master's degree, in physics, for instance, at UCLA, you don't apply for a master's degree, you apply for a PhD program. And while you are getting your PhD, along the way, you get a master. So PhD admission are very, very competitive, right? Because students from universities, even in the United States, apply to UCLA, and because it's like our one university, the competition makes it such a way that they don't get admitted. There is a way, though, that a student from Cameroon, and for anybody who will listen to this, a student from underrepresented minority can use the American Physical Society, APS, Bridge program, like pont en français, bridge program to apply. And what it means is that if the student is selected via that APS bridge program, there will be an understanding from UCLA or any other university in the US who will take the student to know that we will not start the student at the master level, at the PhD level as other students, but we will give that student 1 year, right, to take some undergraduate courses to solidify your background to be able to start the PhD program. So the structures are already in place for that kind of APS bridge program. The other way is to go the route that I did, and many also Cameroonian classmates of mine at that time, is to apply for a scholarship via, for instance, the Abdul Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics, where you will do 1 year of accelerated master degree. And that 1 year of accelerated master degree gives you the right syllabus. You see, so for instance, there will be some particle physics class that you will learn. There will be some quantum mechanic one that you will learn, and so forth. So then your transcript, when you end that school, when you complete that school there, your transcript, when you be read by somebody in the admission committee here, will be like, okay, I can see, I know this, I know that, I know that. But if you take a typical Cameroonian transcript right now, you will not be able to recognize many of those subjects, right, in the transcript. So I would say the student can try to apply. There is this APS bridge program that the student can also try to apply to, but also try to find another route. You know, like when you want to go to B, you can go A to B straight, or you can go A, C, D, B, right? Like find ways around and not give up, right?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for you can see the importance of having mentor now, because what you did is kind of mentorship relationship that you are sharing, kind of guidance on how to approach a goal and objective. So this is really what you were talking about, having a strong support system and people around you to guide you in your path, in your journey. I don't see any other hands. So we are really, really, really happy that you came to us today for this second CAYS Podinar series. The Cameroon Academy of Young Scientists are really happy and delighted, and we showcase this story everywhere we can so that it resonates and it amplifies your message, and that more young women come to do physics, and that your story, the path that you open, can still thrive now. And we have some activities that we do in primary school. So one of these days, you may contact you for this kind of even in primary school online. So we don't have to come, but still online. With the Cameroon Academy of Young Scientists, still that we are doing in primary school, high school, all age, we are doing it every year. And we are really happy, and we hope that we can count on you in the future again. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Christelle, for coming while you were sick at the hospital. Thank you, Fidel, for making time to come also to support. I can see that Fidel is your cheerleader.
Yes.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. You can